I remember the first Drag Me to Hell show I went to. I remember looking at that, I was like, okay, this is like, I want to be a part of this community because it seems it's so free and there was something like inviting to me that, or like I think I recognized something in them as well, even though I didn't like have the name of that for myself yet. My name is Mira Eskelinen. I'm a queer performer, writer and producer based in Helsinki and interested in all things hybrid and trans. It all started in youth theatre. I got into theatre when I was like 12 or something, and I absolutely fell in love with performing and with the people. Then I went into like a performing arts high school because that felt like the natural choice of like wanting to pursue this and wanting to keep playing with people, pretty much wanting to keep like making these connections with other people. Because what I also really enjoyed and what I've like enjoyed for a long time is bringing people together and bringing like introducing people to each other and seeing what like comes out of that when different artists or different friends or different friend groups meet, and then like what blossoms from that. I tended to be also the person who organized things, and because not that many people want to organize things, a lot of people want to just like do the thing, but then like I was also a person who was good at organizing things, and I didn't mind organizing things, and that a lot of times I also enjoyed organizing things, so I ended up also like doing a lot of production work, even though like before even I would have called it production work, it was just the things that needed to get done. Punch Up is a queer variety show that brings together drag, burlesque, stand-up and sometimes other art forms. We invite different performers every night, so then it always keeps changing and evolving and mixing. Madhouse Helsinki gave us 2 nights and we were like, so what would be fun for us? And yeah, it was this sort of feeling of this, oh, something is bubbling under, and because we were kind of moving within all these art forms, and then seeing the queer performers sort of bubble underneath, and also performers who wanted to also explore and combine things. So then we thought that, oh, let's see what happens if we bring the performers together. Let's see if the audience also comes together and what happens. Are you high enough without the Mary Jane like me? Do you tear yourself apart too? Yeah, that first night it was at Tiivistämö. Yeah, it just clicked. Like there was like this idea of like, oh, we have something here. Like something about this works, and not just in this way of bringing people together, but the feeling in that room, that it was this magical feeling of community, like between the performers and the audience members, that it felt like so warm and loving. The amazing thing about Punch Up is that we've managed to recreate, I don't know if it's recreate, but to enable that feeling of community, of temporary community, night after night after night. That it wasn't just like this once or twice, but that it has happened pretty much every time we've performed, and we've done like around 50 shows by now. It was loud, it was a magical night. People were ecstatic, not just because of the show, but because where the show was being held, and like this signal that we also belong on those stages, on the most prestigious stage of the country. it's not called like the National Theatre for nothing. Like it should represent also like different parts of the nation. What I feel as a producer, like when I'm producing, like my main focus is to give the artists the space to focus on the art and to focus on creating new things and giving this time and space to just let the ideas sort of ferment and bubble up. I've always like been more interested in sort of the question of what happens when these people or these art forms or these audiences and performers come together than the end result itself. Like if you think about like atom colliders, like where you just put them in the same spot and see what like sort of sparks, what like completely new things get created. Like I have ideas of like how it could look. I can see like a version of a thing, like what could happen. But then like I'm more interested in like, especially these days, in building almost like a playground for people to come in. And for me, like community building through art works in the same way of like creating these spaces where people can come together. And then something might not happen on that same night or that same event, but that it's more also of these like seedlings or seeds that get planted, and like then collaborations or thoughts bubble up way later in ways that I have no idea how like that's gonna or what's going to emerge. One of the biggest responsibilities is seeing whose voices are missing, or who else, or who could the power be shared with even more, because I believe in sharing the power. And there's the sort of curatorial power that we have, and then that is also something that can be shared. In a nutshell, it's about how being trans has made my life better, and the things that being trans and being openly trans has brought into my life. And then it's also a lot about trans narratives and the pull of certain trans narratives and what other trans narratives we could have or imagine. It took me a while to admit to myself that I was trans, because I didn't fit those very limited narratives. Well, the classic sort of that you have to have a life full of misery. The other thing is that you should have always known. I felt like I wasn't trans enough, or I was trans in the wrong way, because these things like didn't fit my life story. I'm also very interested in the question of like what it means to like build a communal narrative around suffering. And I just miss a discussion about all the other things that transness can bring and can be. Because then within trans communities, there is so much joy and creativity and love. I've always loved the written word. I've always loved stories and how intimate it feels as a reader sometimes. And then when the pandemic started, then when I couldn't perform and produce almost anything, then I started writing more. And then I found such happiness in not happiness, but like this feeling of like deep content in writing and in the process of writing. Because I've always been very restless as a person. And that's why I've also been like jumping to and fro from like between a ton of different art forms. But yeah, in writing I found this, silly to say, I found peace in writing, because sometimes I fucking hate writing. But yeah, there's something grounding and calming in the craft itself that then was very lovely, and then I wanted to pursue that. The thing I love about trans literature is because when cis people do and create art about transness, it always sort of transness gets sort of stuck in these very classic narratives and narrative structures of like, oh, you once you are A, then dun 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 happens, and now you are B, and like the beats are always the same in a way. And then in trans literature and in trans art, I think in general, but what like really speaks to me in trans literature is also like taking the form and seeing like what, like if we apply transness or gender non-conformity or like the multiplicity of gender, not just into the story but into the form, what does that do? What does that do, and how does that feel? And it's sort of like, how does trans time look when when the author lets it affect also the structure of the piece? And that has been so fascinating to me.